Hey, it's Matt Moscona. You found it. It's AFR Saints, your home for daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Please subscribe, smash the like button, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And our content this football season is presented by BetUS. Score a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Enjoy the video. Who dat? Saints are looking for a coach. Mike McCarthy's on the market. A lot of people seem to think McCarthy will be a fit in New Orleans. And a lot of fans don't seem to think that's a good idea. So I figured let's go see if we can roll up our sleeves, dig deep, and find out more about McCarthy and the narratives around him. David Helman has covered the Cowboys for a long time. Fox Sports now writes about the NFL and the Cowboys. LSU alum, shout out. And good enough to hang out with us here for a couple of minutes. Hey, man, how are you?
What's up, brother? It's always good to hear from you, man. I'm good.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. What was your reaction to Mike McCarthy's ouster in Dallas? Let's start there.
I mean, the actual ouster, not very surprising just because it's one of the most overplayed storylines in the NFL this year. I mean, we knew from the time they lost in the playoffs last year that he wasn't going to get his contract renewed and the whole lame duck thing. Like, it was very easy to see coming. As usual, the Cowboys can just never make up their minds. It's always got to be dramatic. You know, he'd won enough games without Dak Prescott that you kind of were wondering if they were going to pull the trigger, like, oh, maybe he saved his job, maybe he didn't. And, of course, they delayed for an extra week, which was very weird. So all of that was strange, but par for the course for the Cowboys. But in terms of him actually losing his job, when 12-5 and going one and done in the playoffs isn't good enough for an extension, you kind of see this coming when the team goes 7-10.
Is the I don't know if I'm sure you see this, but there's just a lot of criticism of Mike McCarthy, and maybe that's just part and parcel with being the Cowboys coach, which you would know well covering that team for so long. But is the perception of Mike McCarthy fair and warranted?
You know, it's a great question, and let's start here. I say this too much, but two things can be true. Do I think Mike McCarthy is like the best coach, the best available option on this hiring market for teams that need a head coach? No, but I absolutely think Mike McCarthy gets an unfair rep, and honestly, like I think it could be as easy as because he's a hefty guy. And because he's kind of gruff in front of a microphone, he's not the most polished dude. He's a guy from Pittsburgh who looks like you'd sidle up to him at the neighborhood bar. I think it's that simple because, I mean, look, it didn't end well in Dallas, and the Cowboys' performances in the playoffs were bad. And Mike McCarthy deserves criticism for that. But he won 12 games 3 years in a row with a Cowboys team that had not been able to sustain success for 20 years before that. I mean, when they made it back-to-back times, it was the first time they had done that since Bill Parcells was in Dallas. And it was the first time they made the playoffs 3 years in a row since the Super Bowl days. And everybody just kind of glosses over that. I mean, obviously, he didn't do what he was hired to do. I get that. We can criticize Mike McCarthy, but I do think people act like he just did a terrible job. And for all the valid criticisms, I never thought that was fair.
We'll get right back to the video, but did you know that BetUS also has a casino? For all of our followers here, if you like slots or live casino dealers, you can take advantage of BetUS amazing sign-up bonuses. 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 or 250% for crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000 as well. Discover the BetUS Casino Playground. Maybe you're a slots enthusiast. BetUS, they've got the games to raise your pulse. You can test your skills with timeless classics. You can also explore the newest, hottest slots and feel that casino buzz with BetUS live dealer tables. Y'all take advantage of this great special. Sign up now. Get 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 and 250% sign-up bonus up in crypto up to $5,000. So get ready for a rush with the BetUS Casino generous promotions and tournaments that make every play more rewarding. Sign up right now and experience the difference. Get your bonus, 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 and 250% crypto sign-up bonus also up to $5,000. Now, enjoy the rest of the video. Are the playoff shortcomings both in Dallas and Green Bay, which Green Bay maybe to a lesser extent because I'm not sure how familiar you are with that, but are those playoff failures, do you lay them at the feet of Mike McCarthy, the narrative that he is just not a good playoff coach?
I think some, yes. I mean, look, I'm not an expert on Green Bay's playoff failures, but I remember vividly. I was actually talking to our buddy Luke Johnson about this morning. I mean, the 2014 NFC title game collapse where
Seattle.
you go, I mean, you go from like up 10 with 2 minutes to play to losing that game. I mean, that's unforgivable, and that has to fall at the feet of the head coach. Absolutely. There are other times, though, where I don't think it's necessarily on him. I mean, they just, as a whole team, they weren't ready to play against Green Bay last year. I think that falls just as much on Dan Quinn, honestly. I mean, Dallas's defense was atrocious in that game. Dan Quinn was the overseer of all of that side of the ball. Mike is primarily involved with offensive things. I think there's enough blame to go with Dan Quinn there. I think Dak Prescott has a significant hand in that. I think bad luck is part of it as well. I mean, 2 years ago, or I guess 3 years ago at this point, the second time they lost to the 49ers, they lost 2 starters to injury in the same game, and they just weren't the same group by the end of the game as they were at the beginning. So it's a long-winded way of saying Mike McCarthy definitely deserves blame for some of the playoff failings. But again, to throw it all of it on him, I don't think that's right.
David Helman's here, Fox Sports on Twitter at @DavidHellman_. Go give him a follow. Covers the Cowboys, covers the NFL and the Cowboys now. Knows a lot about that organization, which, by the way, if you probably get asked this a bunch, what's it like covering Jerry Jones and the Cowboys every day?
I mean, it's an overused word, but it's a circus. And I think Jerry said it himself, which, I mean, this just proves my point. They're advertising a Netflix documentary about Jerry. And, you know, the word on the street is that if they were to hire Deion Sanders, they would probably, you know, farm that out to a company to make a TV show about as well. It is a 24/7, 365 soap opera. It is a blessing and a curse. I mean, you and I both know it's always nice to know that you're going to have something to talk about. I mean, Jerry speaks publicly 3 times a week, 9 months out of the year, which is great. But it's also it's exhausting. And you know, I moved up to a more national role, and I moved out to LA, and I miss a lot of things about covering the Cowboys, but I don't miss always being stressed out about what's going to come out of his mouth.
Mickey Loomis speaks 3 times a year, and that's nauseating. So I don't know.
It's so funny, Matt. Like every time, beat writers get together, you chat with the people that cover other teams, and Luke Johnson again. Like when I talk to my friends that cover the Saints, they're like, "Oh, I wish our general manager talked that off, and our jobs would be so much easier." And I'm like, "I wish our general manager shut the hell up, and I could relax a little bit."
Context, I guess. Hey, Micah Parsons used the word devastated when talking about Mike McCarthy not being back in Dallas. What was, I mean, I think that speaks volumes, but what was the relationship like with McCarthy and the players?
So I think it's a good thing, and I think it can be a bad thing if we want to find some things to criticize about Mike McCarthy. I mean, on the good side of things, he's a player's coach. The locker rooms like him for the most part, and you've seen twice. The Cowboys lost Dak Prescott to injury early in 2 different seasons, in 2020 and just this past year. And both times, McCarthy was able to rally depleted teams to not good records, but good finishes. You know, the Cowboys went 4-3 down the stretch. They beat Washington. They almost beat Cincinnati. And they did the same thing in 2020. Like, despite not having Dak, they were playing for the division title in the last week of the 2020 season, which the NFC sucked that year, but they were still playing for a playoff spot. So his players like him, his players play for him. Now, I would argue part of the reason for that is that he goes easy on them. You know, like Mike McCarthy is very hip to, he keeps track of guys like, GPS numbers, how hard they're running at practice, how much they're running at practice. He's the type of coach that's going to try to keep guys off their feet. You're probably not going to get the hell beat out of you playing for Mike McCarthy. And I'm sure a lot of fans don't like that. They're like, "Oh, we're not going to be battle tested. We're not going to be tough enough for the playoffs." And given the way the Cowboys have played in the playoffs, maybe that's a fair criticism. But his players like him for it, and having the locker room, the team having your back, I guess, isn't a bad thing.
With whatever little or a lot about the Saints, do you think Mike McCarthy would be a good fit in New Orleans?
You know what's really funny? I got to know Mike decently well during the time I was there, and I vividly remember talking to him about Destrehan, because he was living out there at the time that he was the OC back in 15, 20 years ago, and he really liked the area. He when he found out that's where I was from, he just wouldn't stop talking about it. He really liked it. So I think he likes the city. I think he likes the area. Obviously, he's got some familiarity with the structure in New Orleans. And here's the thing. I said the same thing about the Cowboys. Obviously, the goal is to win the Super Bowl, and I can't guarantee you Mike McCarthy is going to do that. But I see the Saints in a similar vein as what I saw the Cowboys 5 years ago, is Mike McCarthy can absolutely come in and raise the floor of that team. Mike McCarthy could stabilize things. You'd have a competent offense. He would probably make a good hire on the defensive side of the ball. I think there would be stability and predictability there. I think it's hard to say for sure with the quarterback situation in New Orleans, but I think Mike McCarthy could get the Saints to the playoffs in a year or two. But what happens beyond that, I don't know. And so I think it's hard to get people excited about a coach where you're yeah, you'll probably be pretty good. I don't know if you'll win a Super Bowl. But after what the Saints have been through since Sean Payton departed, maybe stability is what they need. So maybe not the most exciting hire you could make, but I don't think it would go poorly, at least.
Sounds like a glass of water in an arid region. That's, I'd take it. I'd almost feel like that's like manna from heaven. Perhaps.
Hey, Cowboy fans say that all the time. I get it. It's been 30 years since the Cowboys have won a Super Bowl, but it can be a hell of a lot worse than not getting to the NFC Championship game. It can be much worse than that. So I get it. The goal is to win championships, but you got to be careful what you wish for, too.
David Helman on Twitter, X, at David Helman _ Fox Sports, covers the Cowboys, covers the NFL. Give him a follow. Always appreciate it, man. Thank you for the time. Anytime, man. Go Tigers. Thanks so much for watching the video. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, hit the bell so you're notified when we post a new video, and remember to support BetUS, where right now you can get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use that promo code YouTube150.